Okay, you guys, I came back for a few more videos because I wanted to share with you the latest that I have. I don't always have like newer or updated information to share, but I feel like I've been being shown some things. Some of it's obvious, some of it's kind of new. So I wanted to come back and do a few videos to hopefully help us all understand what's coming, be closer to the Lord. I hope everyone's doing okay with prices going up and everything that's going on right now. The first topic that I have to share here is what we're witnessing with the wars happening right now, is that actually the 10 kingdoms of Revelation being set up? And I'm referring to some verses from chapter 17 of Revelation about apparently the end time beast system being described and how that's going to happen and what it will look like and consist of and come from. But as we see the wars happening, they've been happening, since earlier in this decade. If you guys are not aware, I have an update on this channel about this entire decade. I believe I saw some of the things coming, was shown it happening since 2017 and into 2018 and 19. As myself and others online were studying what was happening in the world, it became apparent to me that most likely there was a pattern, there was a series of patterns happening in the world where the next step looked like it was going to be pretty obviously a cashless setup. And so that's what I believe. Like I said, some of you guys may have seen my videos and know what I'm talking about, but I do have videos about that on this channel if you want to check it out. And so from here, we can say that part of this setup for this cashless and the rationing of the food, the controls that would bring in, whether the people that are involved in doing this know exactly where it's going or not, or planning it this way, I believe that is what we're watching. And so is the war part of it right now, is this, they are obviously controlling the economies, and I believe that is a bigger plan. And who knows which all leaders even know that, but I do believe that's very obviously a big part of the plan. And when you're controlling economies, you're also collapsing things. And you are shaping kingdoms and reshaping kingdoms. And so, is this part of why at the very last days, when these things happen, we're seeing 10 kingdoms? We see these 10 kingdoms form. And I'm about to read that part of Revelation, those verses, so you can understand where that's actually coming from and why people talk about that. I believe there may be some verses about this in Daniel as well, when it talks about a beast with horns and heads. But I'm just picking the one from Revelation for today. And so a lot of what we see today is like regional conflicts. Even though that may be proxy, a lot of people believe that these regional conflicts are proxy wars for larger countries fighting each other through a smaller country. A lot of times that winds up collapsing the smaller country and they become part of the larger countries, and that may be part of what we're seeing. I've already done a video about these 10 kingdoms forming and possibly and which ones they would be and who would come together. So I'm going to add this to this video, parts and pieces of it, so helpfully to understand the details of which countries may come together. But in Revelation, it's telling you what's going to happen. There's going to be 10 regions of the earth. They have been speculated before on a Club of Rome map of 10 socio-economic regions. And it may explain why many regions are at war and conflict right now, as they're consolidating these 10 kingdoms or trying to figure them out or getting ready. So I lean toward a theory that the world leaders are deliberately kind of in on the wars together-ish, or the ones that aren't are being pushed and pressured into the plan. But another thing about the verse from Revelation is it seems like it's saying, even though they may not, like for example, Trump is only right now, and it could be another figure later, Vance, let's just say Vance, whatever, after Trump. So that they would only be over the United States, but when the beast system shows up, they will like almost be appointed maybe over the Canada, Greenland, and U.S., because it says they have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive power as kings 1 hour, which is just going to be that short time at the end. In other words, when the Antichrist system rules, wherever it rules from, probably the temple at Jerusalem, It's not like they will be the king of the whole entire world, so they're going to fire the Chinese leader and they're going to fire the American leader and they're going to fire the Europe leader and get them gone and be the king. It's going to be more like every region will answer to him, if that's what it sounds like for a short time, and they'll all be in agreement, and they give their power and strength totally to the beast only. They have to because of the mark system, or no one will buy, sell, trade, or eat. So this may be why we see the regions at war. The conflict is the consolidation of the 10 kingdoms. In World War II, the rumor was that all of your major leaders were appointed and cooperating from the same secret societies. And I'm going to read some more about that later. So you have your 10 regions, and that also matches Daniel chapter 7, verse 7. After this I looked in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrifying and extremely strong, and it had large iron teeth. It devoured and crushed and trampled down the remainder with its feet, and it was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. And that's what it was thinking, is this final thing on the earth is going to have 10 horns. And then in Revelation it talked about the 10 horns were 10 kings. Israeli News Live had some interesting videos lately as of late May of 2025, if you want to go on that time frame of Israeli News Live. He's having some interesting videos on a Club of Rome map, and details may be adjusted down through time because they did that map many years ago. Decades have passed, but the conflicts we're seeing today, they may not go perfectly into those 10 kingdoms. It may be a little different now, but it may also be forced in coming treaties. So I think they've obviously been experimenting with the European Union for a while as one of these regions, and it's been an experiment. And there's been rumors forever for the North American Union, and Trump immediately talked about it as soon as he came to office. What are they telling him? Like, I don't think they're telling him, oh, we need to do this to fight China, as much as they might be. That might be all he's falling for. I just have to wonder if he's kind of like in on the groups, and they're like, sell it to them, child, sell it to them. Tell the people they got to have Greenland, and that Canada wants to join us. He started talking about Canada, Gulf of America, and Panama Canal at the same time with Greenland. And they've been talking about the Amero for a long time too. But the regions are, from the map, it says there's a North American Union, there's a European Union, a Japan-European Union, a Pacific Union, South Africa and Australia. And then there's Russia with some surrounding areas joined, like maybe what's being fought around today, which is called the Asia Cooperation Dialogue. Like I said, this was back, they was having this plan back in the day, so some of this could be adjustable or adjusted. South American Union, which is from the Mexico and South all the way into the whole South America. So it's like Central and South America together. There's the Arab Customs Union of North Africa and all of these Arab Spring nations kind of put together. There's the African Union of the central part of Africa that's still there, that, you know, it's not South America, it's not the North, I mean, it's not South Africa or the very north parts of Africa. That would be another interesting reason for Arab Spring, is forming that union. So then there's the Southeast Asian nations, which already kind of exists today. India and Pakistan is on the map, I believe, with Afghanistan. Then there's China, North Korea, and Taiwan together. And so they've already been theorizing on these 10 regions. I hate to think about the kind of wars that it would take to make this more solid, you know, before the beast system comes. So hopefully it would come pretty quick instead of having to go through wars and wars, through some kind of a peace trade deal and whatnot. Even though all this discussion lets you know that there are big changes coming, y'all. It does look like major regions are forming. As we're all pretty well aware, the European Union has been around as, I believe, an experiment. And some Asian unions have been here, possibly a loose African Union or a Middle African Union. But most obviously the European Union with the euro, with its own currency as an experiment, did not seem very helpful to the little man. in a lot of people's opinion, and that's why you would have Brexit and different movements like that. But so that's a loose organization that's already here. But the ones that we can kind of see forming is going to be like your Far Eastern Union with China, obviously North American, and of course the I forget, I think it's called Asiatic Cooperation. That would be the Russia and the states around it. And even though these states may not be pulled into the wars right now, like America may not automatically annex Greenland or parts of Canada right now, we may see the beginnings of it forming now more than ever. Unfortunately, after what's coming, in the truces that are made after what's coming, and the next steps that are directly ahead, that's when we may see the actual union form under an agreement. And you guys can understand what that would do to the nationalities and whatever agreements, whatever political agreements that are over those nationalities right now, the government's in charge right now, how that may adjust if this happened. Notice as soon as we had the current president for America, who was obviously appointed, the way was obviously made to where our current president would have been ushered right in instead of his running mate. The lady, if she would have been elected or selected in, she would have had very similar, if not the exact same policies as far as these issues that I'm going to discuss. Notice how as soon as he was ushered in and obviously appointed in, and everyone around him that was put in there with it, if you guys already know about that and what's going on there, if you don't, look it up. This is an obvious, they called it the mandate, and I'm just laughing because it's not much of a mandate when we were grossly misinformed, right? So, the obvious leadership that's in now that was obviously appointed, notice how it came right in with the new technology just announced that was already starting up. Therefore, it had to have already started in the previous administration, right? The new technology programs and certain facilities that are being set up for a future purpose, I do not believe the facilities that are being set up right now are primarily for the purpose they're saying they're for. A lot of people don't, but we're not going to talk about it, right? And notice how there was this announcement of golden ages, golden dome, gold was put everywhere, statues everywhere. And this is just like a spiritual ideal. These are just clues and signals. I'm not going to criticize it or hate it or talk down on it as much as I'm going to say these are important clues and signals that we can see. Even if these things are never fulfilled in this exact way. And in some ways it could be to our benefit. This may be the best way everything would go down since it has to, since prophecy will happen anyway. But to me, all this is these are clues that are telling us this is what someone has in their mind and they're planning. So this can kind of show you what they're about to do or they think they're about to do. And that's all it really gives you as a clue. So in my opinion, this is just like another clue, but notice how there was all the talk of here comes we have to have Greenland and it's important for security and for them even, all the way down to the Panama Canal and Canada. And you saw what they did for Venezuela and what they're doing for Cuba right now. If you don't know, you should look into it. In other words, building the North American Union. It's the beginnings of it more than ever. They've talked about it before. In my opinion, there's been the hard talks about building this union since the earlier seals of Revelation were open. And that's been going on for like 25 years now. So, I don't believe ultimately a great, wonderful new age of any government of the times that we're in is for believers. You can kind of read between the lines that there will come a point where we will be in the way. So that's just obvious, and it's in the Bible. Another big important clue that you can have as far as how much is a system your friend, how much is a great, powerful person your friend, and helping you and passing laws to help you and really have your best interest at heart first, is knowing what time we're actually in the prophecies. To me, once you realize what time we are actually in, that tells you automatically what the leaders are either going to willingly do or be forced to do. And that's what you're really dealing with. It shouldn't be, oh, they said this and they promised that and they suffered so much even. Not even that. Because these leaders are one person. one person by themselves. And so the way the world systems work and these dark kingdoms, they will be replaced, or they will be coerced, and something will happen and things will shift and change. And it's not to hate on them as much as just to say that is what we're dealing with. That is what it is. So along with the theory and the expectations I have of this is that after a certain level of escalation of events on the earth, or after a certain other earth disaster comes along, a truce will be called, an agreement will be called, or a covenant with many kind of an idea. The beginning of the covenants will happen, in which there will be one big hero savior, main person in charge, and there will probably be a lot of misinformation that will make a lot of people say, oh, thank goodness, we really need this. And it's so important, and I'm so glad they're here, and it's our only chance to have anything. It's the only hope. But if it's going like it is now, there's going to be a lot of people that are like, this is a whole bunch of mess. This ain't even what's happening, and they're telling us some stories again. But during this same time is when I believe that there will be the 10 kingdoms that will already be established, probably after all these wars. And at some level, I think that is the plan, because that will be a way to conveniently have this many different kinds of people of the earth, like, organized for the final. Like, I don't think there's a lot of time left for this many different people with these many different ideas and beliefs and languages and currencies and all of this to suddenly come under one system. It's most conveniently done if you're divided into 10 sections as the world. That's probably a greater plan. But I want to read the verses from Revelation chapter 17. I'll start with verse number 7, where it's describing where these 10 kingdoms will come from. The 10 kings, and they probably are not even called kings. They'll be called like presidents or rulers or leaders, and someone that would be generally understood on our big screens as the leader of that area. So starting in verse 7, it says, they're talking about, John has been watching, by the way, in this prophecies, he has been watching this Babylon beast system that's being shown as a terrible woman, and he's it apparently has a level of fascination to it because it's so complex or powerful, or however complicated and sophisticated maybe. And so starting in verse 7, it says, and the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? Because he was marveling about it. I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. And by the way, like in these verses, I believe there's way too many mysteries for me to understand or describe, but I think I'll just kind of say what I see in the verses. And it says, and the beast that thou sawest, and is not, shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. So, this beast that's carrying the evil woman at the end times is coming out of the bottomless pit. Not good, right? Shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. This is the part of Revelation that I think scares people, not just the disasters that are coming, but the call to really be sold out to the Lord despite hardship. The people who belong to the Lord, there's a fear of being on the wrong side of the prophecy. There's a lot of reasons why it kind of scares people, and some of it's understandable. But the people who really belong to the Lord, not only are we going to be called to not surrender to evil, but we're going to have miracles and help from God along the way to not surrender to the evil. And we have to keep that in mind when it seems like we're against brick walls, that the Lord is going to bring miracles and help and sustenance. Because a lot of it's the mind game. If, for the people that are very mental even. So the ones that are actually belonging to the Lord, and it's a reminder that our name is written in the book of life. There's a reason why we suffer. There's a reason why it's not exactly all the time the way we thought or wanted, is because it is not a light thing to be written in the book of life. And so there's this beast that's being described that was and is not and yet is. There's mysteries in this, the way it describes it, and some people have ideas of what that could be. Possibly the closer we get to that time, the more obvious it'll be, and it will help define it for us, what's going on. But verse 9 says, "And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, one is, the other is not yet come, and when he cometh he must continue a short space." So this is kind of the clue that this last king will only be here a little while. Back to, these things will probably come together very quickly, and they won't last that long, and they will be the final. It'll be like a sudden thing that's suddenly built and consolidated. And it'll be successfully done because it was in the plans for a long time. Verse 11, "And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition." Going into perdition is not a good sign of something that has your best interest at heart. Anyway, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings. So the 10 horns that were up here on the beast carrying the evil woman, this evil beast system of the world, these are 10 kings. There's 10 major kingdoms of the world going on here. This is where people are getting this idea that there's 10 final kingdoms at the end time of the earth, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So there's a lot of information in that short little verse where it's talking about there's 10 kings on this beast system. They haven't really received a kingdom yet. Like, my theory on that would be, like, even if you had a leader of a certain European country, at the very last minute is when they will be given leadership over the entire NATO regions or European unions and that region. In other words, they didn't have that kingdom yet. But when this king shows up, when the beast system is set up, they will receive the power as a king of that region for 1 hour, right? A very quick time frame. And that's probably how it's going to be for each region, each of these regions. So it says they don't have the kingdom yet, but they will receive that power for 1 hour with the beast at the very end, which it said he continued a short space. And that's probably just 7 years, guys, maybe 10, and the actual tribulation doesn't begin, but, into the time when it was first set up. But it's going to be a very short time. But they're going to be promising 1,000 years, so beware of that. Because that's going to trick a lot of people's minds of, oh no, this is the rest of my life, and it's going to be decades and decades, if not 1,000 years. So, it's a short space. They receive power as kings 1 hour with this beast, and it's a very short time frame, and they didn't have a kingdom as yet. It's like these things are kind of thrown together at the last minute is what I'm expecting. And verse 13 says, "These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast." So there's not going to be wars at that point. Everyone's going to be in agreement. Verse 14 says, "They shall make war with the Lamb," because that's going to be the assignment from the beast. "And the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. They that are with him are called and chosen and faithful," that are with the King of kings, with the Lord. And he's going to be with us and very close with us. This is why I keep encouraging, be doing your separation like it says to do now. Separate, come out from among them, and you'll be with the Lord closer, because you're going to need to for these times. Because we're going to be the ones that war will be made with. And many times it'll be economic, but I think there will be the hunting and whatnot that I don't want to get into much more than that. And so I just wanted to point out that we're probably seeing the beginning. This is something that I've looked for a decade or more. I don't see it yet. They sure had talked about this NAU for a long time. And they were talking about an Amero at some point. For a while I was like, well, that means that the American economy is going to have to go down and the Mexican economy will have to come up. And those kind of ideas. And how much stress would that involve? And so I've been wondering, a lot of these things that we're seeing right now, a lot of us have been wondering, what is it going to take to get there? How is it actually going to happen? And we always had these options in our mind. It could be viruses, it could be weather, it could be wars and all the above. And so now we're kind of seeing what actually they're doing. Since the virus time, we've really seen what decisions they made in what order to cause it to come out like this. And so that's what I wanted to make this video on is, are we starting to see these 10 kingdoms being set up? Unfortunately, I believe this could mean that it would be a very prolonged time. This could possibly go through a prolonged process, 10 to 50 years even, that we're just starting to see it happen. And so at the very last minute, they'll actually be set up. That's my question for the wars we're seeing right now. Because people are like, oh, this country hated that one, and this one was sneaking up on that one, so it was forced to fight back and all this. But I think there's a bigger, higher plan to it all. Even if your middlemen believe they really are fighting each other, that there is a higher plan, and this is part of it, is the convenience of putting these regions putting the earth into 10 regions that could be easily, you would have 10 people under the beast system that are appointed. There would be these 10 main leaders under that final beast system that would be appointed like at the last minute, and that's who they would answer to. That's what I think is going on there.